Why did no one tell me how absolute broken Druid is right now, especially Pulverize Druid? Being able to already clear tier 74 dungeons on level 80. Now from tier 55 on, 925 items can drop. You just absolutely speed farm this. I mean, like, I was shook and blown away how amazing Druid can be, especially as soon as you figure out the spirit combination. Because right now we're using the Umbral Ring to give us spirit on crowd control. And then all our earth skills are actually slowing. Now the fun part is that we also turn our pulverize into an earth skill. That means we pulverize people on any distance with a shockwave aspect. And well, as they get pulverized, they essentially return a spirit. So we can keep on pulverizing. And if we ever run out of spirit, we can just dash for a second with T-Bolt's Will, the pans, to restore some essence. Or we can just trample to restore even more essence as well. And then I mean, you, like, what the fuck? And have you seen me, like, stop for a single second? No. And we're also not using any auto attack. This is literally like auto attack free kind of build. Now you would think single target is lacking. So let's see if we can find the boss of this dungeon. Does this dungeon actually have a boss? I don't even know. 70% damage reduction on the enemies. That's what your cool war cries are there for. And you're really never in danger of dying. One of the key parts I added to this build that might not 100% be necessary, but that I'm just dearly loving is Mother's Embrace. Mother's Embrace gives you essence refund on hitting at least 4 enemies. That's 10 essence back on any pulverize. And your pulverize costs 33 essence. Now for the boss fight, you can wait for one simple thing. For your overpowers to just be stacked up, because you have every 20 seconds, every 12 seconds, and every 16 second an overpower. And as we're now walking into this, activating Grizzly Rage for more bonus damage. Go in, 1, 2, 3, and that's half of its HP. Now we can just keep pummeling him, right? Oop. Wait for our next overpower, and that's it. Done. Dungeon. Now, how do we make this possible? Damage from earth skills slow enemies by 50%. Very important. That's your crowd control. Also staggers bosses extremely fast. Spirit cost reduction, dodge chance, willpower, all stats nice, but you want also resistance if you're lacking. Now for the gloves, we got Pulverize is now an earth skill. That is the Urzine Horror, which is also available from the Codex of Powers. Now, tectonic spikes come out of the ground that deal damage. It's just a nice little bonus damage. And here we're looking for Pulverize, Overpower damage, crit chance, and dexterity. Now these two go hand in hand with Umbral. Umbral also available from the Codex of Powers, but a high roll would be fantastic. Restore 1 to 4 of your primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. And that is the slow with every single pulverize. If we had the max roll, that means we're going to be getting on 10 enemies, 40 spirit back. And 1 pulverize is only 33 spirit. Now to add the cake on top, that would be Mother's Embrace. Critical strike damage, that's cool because Overpower can critical strike. Lucky hit chance, maximum life, and then if a core skill hits 4 or more enemies, refund 30% of the resource cost. So we get 10 essence back per pulverize, and then per enemy hit, if we hit at least 4 enemies, times 4 from the Umbral Ring is 16, that's free pulverizes. Not only free pulverizes, now comes the shockwave aspect. Pulverize creates a shockwave that travels forward, dealing 200% of its damage to targets in the path. And we're already having like around 1,500, almost 2,000 overpower damage times 200% and all the other multipliers. Nice. Interesting about Druid is overpower damage with werebear skills. Already get a mace waiting for me that does overpower damage intrinsic stat, overpower damage, and overpower damage with werebear skills. That's almost 400% overpower plus just from this weapon. But I'm waiting for the shockwave aspect again. Now to round this up and make this even more crazy, T-Bolt's Will. Total damage percentage plus damage reduction from close, but also you deal 32 or 40% increased damage while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after. When you become unstoppable, gain 50 of your primary resource. Becoming unstoppable is the easiest thing in the world for the Druid. We get our Earthen Bulwark, which makes us unstoppable. We get the Dash with Metamorphosis Vampiric Power. You get Trample, which also makes you unstoppable. And then Grizzly Rage, which also makes you unstoppable. So if I do truly need any time Spirit, I can just restore it. Key piece to make all of this quality work together is Insatiable Fury, Chest. You can get that from Grigor the Galvanic Saint for Living Steel, or from the Beast of Ice for doing Nightmare Dungeons. This one gives you overpower damage, another 200% physical damage, but the most important part is the total armor while in werebear form. That brings me from my meager 7,000 up to almost 12,000 armor, without disobedience anything. And well, werebear form is now your true form, so I'm constantly in werebear form, and you gain 3 ranks to all werebear skills. Perfection. As a helmet, we're playing the Godslayer crown for maximum life, cooldown reduction, crowd control duration, and bonus damage, and also to pull everyone together. That's kind of nice. 48% multiplicative bonus damage on your overpowers fits well. Realistically, you could take a helmet here with total armor percentage, maximum life, and some other shenanigans. We're already doing really good damage. We're already doing millions and millions of overpowers, and we have the damage to technically go to tier 100 dungeons. We don't just have the defense to actually do it. Therefore, Godslayer is a nice bonus for boss slaying. For dungeoneering, we might be better off to take another utility defensive aspect. As a crown jewel, there's the Banished Lord's Talisman. For the overpower damage, the critical strike chance, resource generation, low roll, but you also get 2 ranks to all core skills, and then after you spend 300 primary resource, your next core skill is guaranteed to overpower, and then your critical strikes that overpower deal 120% damage. Which also means we want to have as much critical strike as possible. Right now I'm at 20%. With the gloves, I could push it to 30%. And well, after you spend 300 resource, you just saw me essentially spending infinite resource. I get those free overpowers on top of all the overpowers that Druid anyways has, all of the time. And talking about overpower you always have, we're starting with Wind Shear into Enhanced Wind Shear, and while leveling, we also have a point in Wild Wind Shear for the bonus spirit. And to the topic leveling, I'll have a nice tip for you at the end of the video to make your journey super smooth. Now we're increasing our maximum spirit and also 15% more damage. Makes our core skills more expensive, but we're working on essentially having infinite spirit. And then as many points of Pulverize as possible. Right now we're at 13, and I think I can get it up to 14, 15 at least. And here's the first guaranteed overpower. Every 12 seconds, we just get 1 free with Pulverize. And then if we overpower, we also stun, so that's another stagger. Then 3 points in Predatory Instincts for critical strike chance against close enemies, which works, but mostly we're not close. I guess this is more for bosses. For the Abattoir of Zir, we might go for Iron Fur at some point for the damage reduction while in werebear form. So far, it hasn't been needed, but it's free damage reduction. Now it's defense time. We're taking the Earthen Bulwark to also make us unstoppable and to fortify us. That fortify is really cool because fortify plus life is your overpower damage. Now, Debilitating Roar is amazing because it gives 70% damage reduction to enemies around you, fortifies you, and also slows enemy, which is another stagger against bosses. The most important part is the 70% damage reduction as you just walk into people sometimes, and whatever multipliers annoyingness they have, they get scuffed and you still blast out damage. Cool part is the increase your non-physical resistance by 15% to just be a bit more sturdy, and also 15% damage reduction for 6 seconds after using a defensive skill. And if you rotate your defensive skills right, I mean, this has a 17-second cooldown, this is a 14-second cooldown. You can make sure that one of them is always active as you engage a pack. My favorite skill, especially for leveling, is Trample. You go in, get unstoppable, push people back, do some damage. But we also get 40 spirit on casting Trample, which is fantastic in the beginning. Later on, we don't need it that much anymore, but it will save your butt while leveling, and especially also in dungeons against bosses. Also, while you're in werebear form, you receive 10% additional healing from all sources. Cool. And when you remain in werebear form for at least 16 seconds, your next non-defensive skill will overpower. Yeah, so 12 seconds overpower, 16 seconds overpower, save. Plus the Banished Lord's Talisman. Now our Earth skills deal 15% increased damage to slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knockback enemies. And as you've seen, we do that, and also our Pulverize is actually an earth skill. Not only that, critical strikes with earth skills fortify you, so we're constantly fortified. And while you have fortified for over 50% of your maximum life, your earth skills deal 12% increased damage. A free multiplier on our Pulverize waves. Now, nature magic skills deal 12% increased damage to elites, which is cool because our Pulverize is now nature. It's an earth skill now. And then your earth skills deal 12% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Pulverize is an earth skill now. And nature skills that consume spirit heal you for 3% of your maximum life. Oh, wait a second. Pulverize is an earth skill. And to top this up, Grizzly Rage. We turn into a werebear, or we're a werebear the whole time, get 20% multiplicative bonus damage and damage reduction, and then damage bonus increased for 3% each seconds while you're in this form. Heals extend the duration by 1 second up to 5 additional seconds. And, well, I mean, we're in this for the full duration of the 16.5 seconds most of the time, just going on an absolute rampage. This also grants you unstoppable and fortifies you the whole time as you're in Grizzly Rage. Last but not least, the key passive, which would be Yurzen's Strength. We get maximum life, while in werebear form, and we're permanent in werebear form, right? And then while healthy, deal 25% increased damage and 25% increased overpower damage. Holy balls, that's amazing. Now you understand even better why we turn Pulverize into an earth skill. For the spirit boons, we take a bit less damage from elites. We get 14% max life and 30% critical strike damage plus. Since it's not a multiplier, you could also go for the bonus chance instead if your chance is lacking and you feel like you're not critting enough. We're extending the duration of our ultimate skills as well by 25%. That's just a no-brainer, being even more grizzly raging, rampaging through the dungeon. Alternative, if you're happy with the grizzly range duration, you could take Lucky Hit. Dealing damage has an up to 15% chance to restore 10 spirit. We do already return an amazing amount of spirit, and we don't need this technically, but especially during the leveling, this might be making everything a bit smoother. Lastly, we're taking Obsidian Slam. Every 20th kill causes your next earth skill to overpower. Here, an alternative is also for me critical strikes with shape-shifting skills have an up to 75% chance to heal you for 3% of your max life, which technically could keep you topped up the whole time. But the free overpower is just too good as you're going through dungeons. Paragon board into Vampiric Powers, and Paragon board has so much to offer on Druid, it's crazy. We're beginning with the Outmatch glyph for physical damage to non-elites and bosses, which also boosts the rare nodes, giving us more resistance to elements, willpower, damage, and willpower. It goes into the Survival Instinct board to boost our damage in werebear form. We're going for the Exploit glyph, and here important is just activate the glyph. Because again, all the rare notes like damage to healthy enemies, armor, freaking 12.5% damage while healthy, plus another 12.5 while healthy, and up here, total armor while in werebear form, plus damage while in werebear form. Like it's just crazy werebear skill damage, overpower damage. What the rare notes have to offer on Druid in general. Upwards and onwards into the Ancestral Guidance board after spending 75 spirit, and you kind of notice how we constantly spend 75 spirit in this build. You get 30% increased damage, and this one is up always. Always as we're dungeoneering. Now we'd also get 2 spirit on kill and another spirit on kill, so 3 on kill, adding to our spirit generation in total. With more core skill damage, the basic skill damage doesn't matter because we're not really basic skilling anymore. And then lastly, also maximum spirit, maximum life. Just take all the maximum life you can into the Dominate glyph, and here we're beefing out Dominate. In comparison to Exploit, you want to get all the intelligence here possible, and there's quite some to be picked up, plus obviously core skill damage and resistance to all elements. Now this brings us down again from the Survival Instinct over to the Earth and Devastation. Your Earth skills deal 10% increased critical strike damage, increased by 20% of your damage versus crowd control bonus up to a 40%. So if you're able to pick up damage versus crowd controlled, do that, because that bonus helps for even more multipliers. Resistance to all elements, even more critical strike damage with earth skills, and then we're also taking Guzzler for more damage while healthy. That is his own multiplier kinda. And then lastly, we're going into the Constricting Tendrils board, and here we're whooping out the Earth and Sky for increasing the bonus to all magic nodes, not rare nodes in this case. And we got maximum life, maximum life, maximum life, nature skill damage, nature skill damage. Yes, and even more maximum life. So that's a huge increase. Also, our nature magic skills deal 10% increased damage to crowd controlled or vulnerable enemies. We have that continuously. Lastly, we're traveling up to nature magic skill damage and damage to elites, and also damage to crowd controlled enemies. And we just heard that our crowd control additive bonus is very important to higher our crowd control damage multiplier. So it would be absolutely stupid to not pick this one up. Vampiric Powers offer quite some choice. You want Zangra Embrace though, because that gives you Fortify on Kill, not so important. It's more about the critical strike chance, because we need to higher our critical strike chance as much as we can. And getting another 8% bonus is incredibly good. We would now also get from the Spirit Boon the plus 5%. I could already, without gear, higher my critical strike chance by another 13. Then we're also playing Blood Boil. It's just too amazing to get another free overpower every 20 seconds on the free overpowers we have already. Plus the volatile blood drops are a nice little bonus damage as you dash through them. Now we do also want Prey on the Weak so that we deal 16% multiplicative damage against vulnerable enemies. And yes, we would also play Metamorphosis if we had it. We still have to quickly acquire it. Yes, I just blasted through the game and we haven't picked it up yet, but that's our source of vulnerable essentially. And then the last slot is a little bit free. You can slot Undying for casting skills heals you, but you're also never really taking damage. Then again, Abattoir of Zir might be better to just be able to continuously have a bonus heal on top. Alternative, you could be taking Hemomancy, and that one you definitely want to have while leveling, but we'll come to that in a second. Or Domination, which deals even more damage to stun targets, and you stun them when you overpower them, and yeah, it's another nice multiplier. Realistically, though, against bosses, that one is useless, so rather want to have more survival than more damage because our damage is already incredible. Now, what do you do for the perfect level journey? And here we're looking into the Codex of Powers, because you get the triple stack of awesomeness. Offensive aspect, the Urizen Horror, is from the Belfry Zakara. You can already unlock this extremely early, and you turn your Pulverize into an Earth skill. Put that on your amulet. Utility, unlock the Quicksand aspect by doing the Feral's Den, and you can already put this on your boots and not exchange your boots for a while. And lastly, the Umbler aspect can be had from Champion's Demise, and therefore you have the triple stack of even while leveling. This one goes on a ring. Already be restoring essence on every single Pulverize. It's not a lot, but it will help you to smoothen your playthrough tremendously. Druid is slow, and I just don't want you to struggle. On top of that, make sure to slot Hemomancy, because your attacks deal 80% of your maximum life as physical damage. And you notice we're kind of beefing our life up with everything we do werebear wise to then have just more life. So everything around us every 4 seconds just takes damage and goes down. And that in total with these 3 aspects will just help you to level vastly faster than I have. Now that was our first Druid build, but there's way more to follow, especially as this one gets 100, demolishing Lilith, tier 100 dungeons, everything. Going also for a landslide creeper build and all that kind of stuff. You now want to take on a little challenge, which this 10 gigatip video, and tell me if you knew all of them.